The scene takes place in a spacious apartment in which the protagonist enjoys panoramic windows. Around it are 4 impressive sports cars, and the room has a double bed and a gaming area with multiple monitors. Our hero shows off his golden armor, which no one else on the server has. He laughs as hard as he can until he falls off his chair, biting his tongue and shattering his smartphone. Suddenly, a notification arrives on the guy's phone from a person demanding a return of the debt. With a smirk on his face, the hero realizes that this man never forgets his duty. Deciding to make money, he lays down on the bed, preparing to dive into the gaming world. A virtual hero, with flaming hair and clad in golden armor, appears in the city. The rest of the players are jealous of him and spread rumors about his unfair success. Suddenly, a little boy, obviously a newbie, known as Noob, asks the hero for 10 gold coins. Everyone is surprised, because how can you ask for money from such a devil? The hero takes out a bag with 1,000 gold coins, as if he is going to give it to the boy. However, the unexpected happens. He kills the boy with one powerful blow with this bag. Nonscript Knight reacts to this action and defends Noob, but the protagonist simply bribes him. This causes great discontent and envy among other players who dream of revenge on him. The hero, running away from the persecution of other people, accidentally enters the room where there is a person who reminded him of his duty. The heroes discuss the situation and come to the conclusion that the hero will have to sign papers and complete an SS rank quest. The hero brags about his armor and insists that he has already been given this quest. Without reading the contract, he signs it, receiving an answer about his bravery. For this quest, they promise 40 million gold, which in terms of real money is 20 million. This amount is enough to pay off the debt. The essence of the quest is to defeat the Imugi, who continues to attack merchants. The Imugi himself looks like a dragon. The hero jumps into the dragon's mouth, and the dragon tries to eat him, but instantly the dragon's body is cut by a huge golden flaming sword. With a face without emotion, the hero with the intestines of this dragon on his body notices that this dragon turned out to be very weak. The hero feels disappointment and rage at the fact that his precious and beautiful armor is stained with the blood of this dragon. Suddenly realizing that he cannot complete the quest, the hero finds himself under attack from other players who unleash powerful magic on him. Although some of them are not sure if they killed him, the hero still survives. In response, he unleashes a huge wall of flames, incinerating some opponents. The rest of the players are disappointed that the main character is still alive and decide to attack him all together. But the hero, full of rage and self-confidence, easily copes with all of them, except for one, the boy Noob. At this time, the dragon he defeated is reborn as a huge zombie dragon. A little boy attacks the hero, stabbing his hand with a knife, and the hero is at a loss to understand how his hand could be pierced with such a small dagger. Suddenly, the boy's disguise is removed and an attractive girl appears from there, who laughs and tells him that he cannot be the best. The girl continues to inflict a series of her attacks, and the hero cannot dodge them. He insults the girl, calling her a bitch, for which he receives several blows in the face. He doesn't understand who she is. The girl orders him to remove all of his items, leaving him completely naked. The hero starts screaming, but the girl kicks him to silence him. The hero threatens the girl, stating that he is the #1 rank and will definitely kill her, and asks who she is. However, he receives a cryptic answer that he will soon find out, because now he has to look for her at the end of the world. The hero does not understand what she means and demands that she return his things. While the girl leaves, leaving the hero alone with the zombie dragon. As she leaves, she warns the hero that if he dies, his statistics will be reset to 0. During this moment, the hero screams in rage that he will kill her, but before he can finish his sentence, his head is bitten off by that same dragon. The action is transferred to the capital of the Eastern Kingdom, where a beautiful landscape opens up with a majestic castle. We see the market where our new heroine appears. She came here to try the local food, which she had dreamed of for a long time. However, as she approaches the queue, a huge man steps in, hands over the money to the vendor, and gets the food he came from a long way for. He tells the girl about it, but the girl falls into a rage and decides to punish this huge man, easily overturning him through herself into a stone wall. She takes the treat from him and devours it greedily, not noticing how quickly she eats it. In the end, in her hands there is only a stick from this food. In the distance, she notices the same guy, our main character, who had his head bitten off, but now he was reborn on the first level. The guy tries to kill a cute little rabbit, but he misses all the time, and the rabbit knocks the hero far away with one blow. The protagonist expresses disappointment, saying that yesterday he was the best and now he is a noob. He asks other people for help, but they remember who he is and begin to mock him by chaining him to a post. They beat him in a crowd and then heal him, repeating this in a circle. They enjoy their actions and encourage each other to keep beating him. Completely exhausted, the hero declares that he will kill everyone once he returns to his level. He is healed for the last time, and the same person who gave him trials and duty approaches him. With a smirk, he tells the hero that he hates idiots most of all who cannot repay a debt. He talks about how in-game currency can affect the real world. Suddenly, the girl decides to stand up for the guy, and the assistant of the man who gave the loan clashes with her in a sword fight. She says that this guy is very dear to her, but the guy himself does not even know who she is. Suddenly, the action is postponed a year ago. We see our main character when he was not yet the highest level. He is on the battlefield, and on the tree we see a bound girl hanging from a branch. The girl, dumbfounded by what is happening, realizes that this guy has killed a lot of people in front of her eyes. He tells her that she ended up here because she was too weak and asks her to become stronger by cutting the rope. Leaving the place, the hero leaves the girl with the determination to become stronger. The plot flashes back, and we see the girl's battle with her former creditor. The creditor cannot understand how such an experienced warrior could have such a powerful ally. Suddenly, a huge man appears, who intends to deal with the main character. He releases a laser blast from his long spear, which almost kills the protagonist, but he manages to dodge along with the girl. The lender takes the side of the protagonist and decides to protect them. However, the general, it turns out, is not going to stop and taunts the heroes. They decide to just run away from him. The lender summons his blue dragon bunny, and the heroes climb into its mouth to fly away. The dragon soars up, powerfully flapping its wings, and rushes into the distance, disappearing from sight. The embittered general, looking at this amazing spectacle, cannot help but be amazed at this powerful creature, about which he has heard so many legends. The general's assistant dares to ask him if the cooldown after punishment is not so long. In response, he receives only a rude ridicule and an order to shut up, because he himself will become the object of another punishment. The dragon, rapidly flying over the escalating battle, raises questions from the affected enemies. Maybe this is an enemy transport. The heroes clenched in the dragon's teeth do not fully enjoy this unusual journey. They complain of pain and wonder what is going on around them. And finally, the dragon reaches its goal, the peak known as Dragon Mountain. At the top you can see a small hut. It is to its porch that the dragon releases our heroes, smiling with satisfaction, and sits down on its hind legs. The lender leads the heroes to the hut. With a mysterious expression on his face, he informs them that he will make an offer they cannot refuse. The protagonist asks the girl if she will go with him, and receives a positive answer, with a promise to protect him, because they agreed on this. However, the hero still does not remember who she is and what the promise was, and is afraid that she will immediately end him if she finds out about his memory. In the hut, the lender and his company meet small, cute and colorful short-legged dogs, and a voice from the back room asks, "Are you back?" He replies, "Yes, boss." The boss asks about the assistant lender, but he does not want to talk about this topic. A mysterious voice addresses the protagonist and asks if he is that high-level warrior. The hero, confused and puzzled, tries to figure out who might be asking such questions, and assumes that it must be a person of unusual status, perhaps from a powerful guild. The protagonist's thoughts are interrupted by a flood of questions about his level, and he is still stunned, not understanding what makes the highest level so special. Then we see the boss, a young guy with white hair, who demands that the hero upgrade him. A dialogue unfolds between the hero and the boss, in which they discuss the reward. It turns out that the boss offers the hero 1 billion. The girl was completely speechless, not believing that this boy could have so much money. The hero wants to play for show-off and declares that 1 billion is not enough, it is not so cheap. But the creditor interrupts him, pointing out that the hero himself still owes him money. The guy suggests that Hard-Hitter, the lender, cut off a couple of his fingers if he doesn't trust him. Hard-Hitter asks the hero if he has any kind of patron. The hero replies that this is just an unfounded rumor. Suddenly, the protagonist needs to exit for a second, and he activates a premature exit. The boss warns the hero to be careful. The protagonist wakes up in the real world and sees some people carrying him by the arms and legs. He starts screaming, not understanding what is happening. The leader of these people notices that the guy has woken up and orders his subordinates to let him go. The hero, dropped to the floor, asks if Chairman Kim sent them. The hero is threatened, pointing out that all his material goods, cars, apartment, food, etc., are financed by the chairman. And if the hero continues to be a loser and loses the competition, then it will be very bad for him, because Kim has invested a lot of money in him. The hero is locked in a solitary prison-like room and told they won't let him out until he reaches his former level. At the far end of the room, the hero notices a box labeled drugs and goes berserk, insulting the chairman in every possible way. Events take us 3 years ago, where the main character, apparently, wants to be thrown off the roof of a 4-story building. The hero is trying to establish contact and simply talk with the kidnappers, hoping to find a way out of this situation. The kidnappers respond by emphasizing the importance of keeping promises and insisting that a person who does not keep his word becomes nothing more than trash. They realize that the chances of him dying when falling from the 4th floor are small, so their goal is to make a pawn out of him and use them for their own selfish interests. At the last moment, one of the kidnappers manages to hold the hero by his pants, preventing him from falling off the roof. Fear and despair seize the guy, and he begs not to be killed. The kidnapper orders to let him go and hands over a contract according to which our hero will be forced to work for a man named Lee Jen until his debts are fully repaid. They require him to sign and leave a fingerprint. The kidnappers argue that he cannot earn 80 million won by selling gum. They ask him if he is familiar with Adventure in Consciousness, a strange game that has appeared only recently. The kidnappers discuss that the in-game currency in this game will have real value. They offer him access to a workhouse so that he can pay off all his debts, and offer him the contract again, insisting that he accept it. Finally, we return to a small room where the embittered hero insults Chairman Kim. Suddenly, he hears voices outside the door and realizes that he is in a kind of prison, surrounded by cages in which there are other players who also owe what he is. The guy realizes that he can handle this and starts asking other players for their nicknames. He then returns to the game's virtual world. The hero is waiting for the diners, especially one girl. They turn back to him and ask if he will take up this case. The hero, however, is interested in why the boy warned him to be careful and suspects him of conspiring with Kim, but the boy reassures him that this is not the case. The protagonist begins to bargain for a reward for the task and offers a little more, namely 3 billion. The boy agrees, surprising the hero's new bodyguard. The heroes leave to swing. Sora is offered to go along with everyone else, he agrees. Actions do not cross Yopi lands. Heroes walk along the street. The guy tells Sora to go to the potion shop and buy more, because they will go to the dungeon. The boy does not really believe in the mighty power of the hero, and therefore calls out to him and wants him to prove it. The hero does not understand how he can prove it right now, and Sora stands up for his master and says that he does not have to do anything to prove it. The boy notices a green-haired guy in the distance at the shop and orders the main character to fight him and win, thereby proving his power. The hero, with full confidence, throwing back his cloak, approaches that guy. The green-haired guy tightly grips a huge delicious sandwich in his hands, but suddenly he gets hit from behind by our main character, and the sandwich falls to the floor. This blow of the hero had its reasons. The last time he was beaten, he was in great pain. In the next scene, the green-haired guy grabs the protagonist by the throat and pins him against the wall, threatening to kill him despite being in the village. The protagonist boldly expresses his opinion, telling the guy that he is worthless and will not be able to kill him. As a result, the green-haired guy becomes even more angry and tightens his hand around his neck. The guild leader pulls his henchman back because of the approaching guards, but this does not bother the guy. He wants to kill the hero right here and now. Sora yells in rage at how dare he touch a high-level warrior Nim, and the boy begins to get a little frustrated with him because Nim promised him to show his full power, and ends up getting hit himself. The protagonist challenges the green-haired guy to an official duel, as he wants to kill him so badly, and the guy agrees. They agree on the duel. The official duel begins and the villagers gather to watch. The duel will be conducted under the supervision and protection of the god. The rules are announced. If one of them kills an opponent, it will not become a red player, and NPCs of the battle are immediately called to the battlefield as judges and observers. The battle NPC asks the heroes what rewards they want for victory. The green-haired guy announces his demands, he wants a high-level warrior to remove his hero from the game forever, and the guy himself receives all the stats of a high-level warrior. To this, the hero is asked if he is joking, because in an official duel you can only bet your life or fortune. The NPC replies that the bet is accepted, as this is possible due to the features of the high-level warrior class. The boy doesn't understand what it means. The protagonist begins to be cheeky again, saying that the green-haired guy is afraid to fight the first level and that he can't do anything. In response, he receives a punch in the face and flies off to the other end of the ring. The green-haired guy slowly approaches and says that because of the selfish image of the warrior game, so many people have stopped playing. He also threatens that he will not kill the hero quickly, although he himself will die in one blow. He yells at him to be quiet and decides to attack the green-haired one with his small blade. The guy does not understand what kind of unpresentable weapon it is, and suddenly receives a series of blows that cause little damage. He tries to dodge, but the hero hits him back, saying that every member of his guild who left the game because of him feels the same way. The hero's health is running out when he suddenly heals, realizing that the green-haired man wants to play with him again, like with a mannequin, like last time. However, the warrior attacks again, but does only minor damage, and his opponent reports that it is too early to kill him, you need to hit him at least 100 times. Suddenly, we see dialogue from the crowd, learning that one of them is betting on the green-haired one, and there is no way our protagonist can win. A certain guy approaches the hero's friends, who reports that this high-level warrior's level has decreased. This guy asks Sora who they bet on. Sora looks at him with an evil expression and asks what the hell they put in. The guy then goes on to explain that the spectators of the duel can bet on the winner. The winner receives gold and experience, depending on how much they wagered. We see the duel from the side, and it is clear that the green-haired guy is the absolute leader. The guy asks the hero's friends if they will bet, but gets a negative answer. Events return to the duel, where the high-level warrior continues to taunt his opponent, claiming that he cannot defeat him. Suddenly, his opponent launches his attack and the protagonist manages to dodge it. He tries to strike from the side, but fails and gets hit in the face. By the looks of it, the duel is almost over because the crowd gets bored and says everything was predictable. All of a sudden, the same guy bets a high-level warrior for 100 million, explaining that he likes people who look like rookies. The opponent approaches the motionless opponent and intends to strike the final blow, declaring that he will remove him from this game once and for all. However, he suddenly receives a blast of energy in his face that glows bright red and causes paralysis. The green-headed man turned out to be completely paralyzed, but he could not restrain his insulting words against the main character, calling him a cunning bastard and assuring that he would definitely defeat him. However, before he could finish his speech, he received a crushing blow to the face, as a result of which he was defeated. The judge declares the victory of the high-level warrior and praises his achievements, voicing a list of his well-deserved awards. She then invites him to choose one of the 3 chests, but due to the low level of the hero, he can only choose one. The question arises, what should he choose, and the hero realizes that he now needs to increase his luck. Events take us to the central square, where a magnificent imperial castle rises in the distance. The gaze is drawn to the warrior robots, tied to something viscous, who are being interrogated by the chief general. Suddenly, one of the robots attacks the general from behind. His comrade calls out to him, warning of the attack, but the general has already sensed the presence of danger and easily cuts the attacking robot. He expresses annoyance at having to kill the robot even though he didn't mean to. Then the guy who was on the way with our main character comes up to the general along with his companion, who derisively calls the general Ducky. In response, the general becomes very annoyed and begins to insult the girl. The companion of the guy who came with the girl refers to the general as bro, which displeases his companion. She points out that he is the king of this kingdom and should show at least a little respect. It turns out that this simple guy is actually the king of Yopi land. The king excuses himself by being late because he stumbled upon an exciting fight. However, the general does not like this excuse, because he has been waiting for the king for many hours. The heroes begin to discuss attacks by mysterious robots and come to the conclusion that the Empire has probably sent them and is preparing to attack from behind. However, the king claims that this is impossible. The general asks if this could be an attempt to start another war to provoke them. The king replies that this assumption is possible, but so far only an assumption. The king remembers the guy who fought and turns out to be our main character, and realizes that he is much more dangerous than he thought. The general does not understand who he is talking about, and receives an answer that he is talking about a guy whom the king paid attention to. He orders his subordinate to set surveillance on them. Finally, the action returns to our main characters. They discuss the broken sword and see the side quest they are on. The task is to visit the dungeon and talk with an NPC named Black Magic Doyum. They accept this quest and see that a marker has appeared on the map indicating the direction. Along the way, the white-haired boy asks the protagonist how he was able to win, given their similar level. The protagonist does not want to reveal all his secrets and says that the boy does not need to know all the details. In response, the boy says that he will not pay him, and then the hero explains that he used his advantages that the enemy did not know about, namely that his sword is guaranteed to deal a critical hit at 100 hits. During the conversation, it becomes clear that the boy's name is Dark. The girl, impressed that he was able to offer a huge amount for a high-level war, wonders if he is super rich. She asks him if he knows about Giga. Dark replies that his grandfather is the chairman of this company and runs it. The protagonist is shocked by this news, realizing that he seems to have been provided with wealth since birth. But Dark explains that Grandpa had to write a will. The hero objects, pointing out that he recently saw his grandfather on TV, and he looked healthy and strong. He doesn't understand what happened. Then we are shown Darkov's grandfather, lying in a hospital bed. He talks about how he's going to make his will in this game they're in right now. However, after these words, he loses consciousness, and the doctor reports that he, at best, has only 3 months left. Dark claims that in the online game, he sees his grandfather online in his contact list, but they never actually met inside the game world. This could mean that his grandfather's consciousness still exists somewhere in this virtual space. Their conversation about his girlfriend is interrupted when they finally reach the very dungeon they've been looking for. The heroes finally reach Doem's black magic, meeting with a mysterious NPC. He asks which of them will take over the task, and Dark decides to take on that responsibility. The heroes go inside, but they hear the NPC confidently claiming that they can't get through this dungeon. Hard Heather states that he can handle this dungeon challenge in 3 seconds, but Dark does not believe him, while the girl wants to trust Hard. Remembering only the box that Hard chose, they ask what stats were in it. The doors are closing and we cannot understand what the hero answered. Then we see some kind of robot, similar to one of the associates of those who attacked the king. He conducts dialogue and spies, reporting the arrival of the heroes. The robot understands that it will be difficult for our main character to do anything inside the dungeon, and proceeds to his task. In the next scene, we see Dark watching the main character and his companion kill hordes of mobs. Only one remains alive, who begs to be left alive. The protagonist still decides to leave him alive. The robot then reappears, apparently communicating with its boss. We will find out that this is the most dangerous killer who is afraid of zombies, which are mobs in this dungeon. The scene switches back to the main characters, who are walking up the stairs and complaining about the difficulty of the side quest. The hero tells Dark that this is only the easiest part, to which Dark quipped that it's not as easy as newcomers usually deal with 100 zombies. The protagonist explains that most of the players in this game enjoy their daily lives, while only a small part of the players choose combat classes. He asks Sora what her side quest was and learns that she had to kill 1,000 werewolves, which took her 2 months. The guy jokes that perhaps no one in this game can boast of more difficult side quests. Finally, the heroes reach the second level of the dungeon and see a huge green monster in front of them with a little girl on its shoulder. This monster is called Borgova. The girl, sitting on the monster's shoulder, jokes about how the previous zombies were terribly boring, and invites the heroes to have fun in their company. We see that the first part of the quest is completed and there are only 2 parts left. Finally, the confrontation begins. The monster abruptly releases a huge stream of flames from its mouth, and Sora decides to protect everyone, realizing that the fire creates many problems. She gets injured, but despite this, she says that the fire is a serious threat. The protagonist throws his dagger to Dark and informs him that he has stabbed it 99 times, so you need to wait for the right moment. Dark asks what weapon he will use as he looks away from the monster, but Dark starts screaming furiously, insisting on keeping his eyes on the enemy. At this time, the monster decides to take advantage of the situation and attack with its huge arm, but Sora manages to stop the blow with her sword, but in the process receives some kind of curse that turns her to stone. The hero is upset that they temporarily lost an ally, as he was counting on her. This means that he will have to use his own power here and now. He orders Dark to wait for the right moment to attack the monster. The girl on the shoulder is surprised that the heroes are running away from the monster, but the heroes see this as an advantage, since the monster is huge and slow. The hero draws a sword from its scabbard and realizes that this is probably the most terrible weapon that could come across to him. The sword is broken and its attack is only 6. Dark is angry at the main character for ordering him to do something, because he hired him for a reason. The hero replies that if he continues to interfere, he may be attacked. The girl on the monster's shoulder gets tired of the heroes just running around the monster, so she casts magic on the monster, and he goes into berserk mode. Dark, with anger and displeasure, tells the hero that all this time they were only running away, because the hero said that they would pass this dungeon in just 3 seconds. To which he receives the same dissatisfied answer, "Shut up," because the whole plan of the protagonist collapsed. Suddenly, a huge monster decides to attack, jumping on one of the heroes, Dark. However, the protagonist notices him and, in order to protect Dark, takes a blow to his legs, which are completely crushed. He explains his act by saying that he needs money, and how he can get it if his employer dies. The girl calls on the monster to stop it, and the main character tells the boy that this opportunity comes once in a lifetime, and they need to use it to the fullest. Sora then easily cuts off the legs of the monster, because, apparently, he was petrified, which causes incredible surprise to the magician. Dark himself decides to attack and pierces the monster with his sword right in the forehead, causing him to become paralyzed and die. Sora finishes off the magician by talking about how he dared to touch a high-level warrior. Thus, the second stage of the quest was completed, and only the third stage remained, which is to clear the third floor. However, it is not clear who exactly needs to be killed. In addition, the heroes learn that they are waiting for a reward of 200 experience points and a seal of black magic. The legless hero asks Dark to heal him with the help of the lands he bought. Finally, the hero is healed and summons Sora. They ask the girl they caught if she killed them. They receive a positive response and order her to be tied up. Then the hero begins to interrogate the girl, telling her that the zombie on the first level told him the whole truth. He learns all her weaknesses, monster abilities and so on. After learning that the girl is ticklish, the hero begins to tickle her, saying that a true professional always benefits from every situation. Taking a quill and threatening her, he demands that she reveal everything she knows about the third level. The hero begins to torture and question the girl about what is on the third level. The girl at first says that she does not know that she really does not know, but after some time, under tickling, she admits that there is an archdemon. That's all she knows. After that, we see the archdemon himself, who complains about the noise from below. Actions are transferred to the creditor, who, as always, decides to play and is dissatisfied because of this, asks what will happen to his position and demands an apology. We introduce ourselves to black market merchants named Kushum and a cobalt castle lord named Satsmile. The trader, turning to Heart Hitter, informs him that he has come here to discuss business, and asks him to stop scaring them. Finally, the lord apologizes to him. The merchant wishes to stop talking and proceeds to trade, asking the lord if he has brought the money. He receives a positive response, but first he demands to see the goods. The merchant opens the chest and we see a small sword that emits a black cursed aura. The merchant warns not to touch this sword, as a strong curse has been placed on it. The lord praises the sword as it was forged by a great blacksmith and is his 38th sword. Despite the merchant's warning, he decides to take this sword, realizing that this is a real curse. The merchant is surprised and asks if the lord is afraid of the curse, but getting no answer, asks again if he is afraid of the archdemon's curse. The scene returns to our main characters. We see Sora measuring Medusa's combat gloves and praising them, saying they are amazing. When getting loot from the chest, the heroes are a little disappointed, because they did not expect to find only gloves there. But Dark notices Borgova's underpants, which have an impressive def of 130, and invites Sora to try them on. Sora shows her panties, which have 230 defense, and explains that they are made from black dragon scales. Dark cannot understand why such small panties have much more protection, and the protagonist explains to him that this is the principle of indestructibility in MMORPGs. While the heroes advance to the third level, the protagonist invites Dark to swing his sword 99 times before they finally reach the goal. Dark, unsure, asks how strong the archdemon is if they actually face him. The protagonist explains that there are several archdemons in this world. newborn archdemons are not that strong, but then they become demon kings, and this is a completely different level. Usually, the strength of an archdemon can be determined by the size of its horns. Finally, the hero comes to the door, and the main character says that it's time to check how strong this third-level archdemon is. Dark asks if he is afraid, to which he receives the answer that this fight will most likely be more difficult than at the second level, and if he talks as much as in the previous stage, then he will not be able to save the protagonist again. Dark replies that the hero takes care of himself. The heroes open the door and see with great surprise that this archdemon is already dead, and cannot understand what happened here. Sora assumes it's a trap, but isn't it a dungeon? The heroes are noticed by a real archdemon of unknown rank, who explains that he killed the previous archdemon out of boredom. The demon says that the protagonist tried to tell him about black magic or something like that, but he didn't care. The protagonist realizes that this demon is much stronger than the monster on the second floor. The demon immediately decides to attack the main character, but Sora manages to protect him and declares that he will hold him for now, and the hero instructs the small one to get potions to strengthen him. The demon is impressed by the girl's strength and speed and says that she will be suitable for the sacrifice. He assures that once he is done with them, he will complete his quest once and for all. The protagonist warns Sora to be careful as this demon is not easy. In his mind, he realizes that they are facing a boss that is also related to the quest, and he doesn't know what to do. The demon says that they can do anything and shows his malice by releasing a laser from his finger and breaking a bottle of holy water, stating that he doesn't like it. We see on the concentrated and angry faces of the heroes, and one of them says, "Let's go." Sora decides to attack first, but the demon turns out to be incredibly strong, stopping the sword with one hand and mockingly remarking that she's an idiot, aiming at his neck in this way. However, Sora is not the type to give up easily. She begins punching him in a display of her prowess, and finishes off with a powerful kick that pushes the demon back. The demon disapproves of Sora dropping her sword to use her arms and punishes her by depriving her of her glasses. He says that those who get 0 points are doomed to fail. However, the girl realizes that she has a 100% chance of successfully activating her gloves ability. She stabs the demon, who suddenly petrifies. Sora gleefully declares that her plan has been successful and assures the warrior that he must strike. But before she can say it, she takes a critical hit in the face, flying into a wall. The demon declares that she only deserves death and that she is an abomination. Sora has hit a wall and her health is at a low point. The heroes realize that the curse doesn't work on the demon, and they don't know how to defeat it. The action is transferred to the past when the archdemon was on his knees in front of the girl who defeated him. He begs her to kill him, but the girl refuses, as she realizes that the horns of the archdemon, filled with true evil, can bring her much more than his head. The demon, seized with rage, insists on his death, since defeat is considered a shame for his race. In the absence of a choice on the part of the girl, he attacks her. In response, the girl offers to cut off 2 horns, announcing that these will be the last moments of an idiot who has never lost before. She calls the scene disgusting and adds that the archdemon was sealed away somewhere, and if he survives, they will meet again. This is how Raisy's boss quest came about. Finally, the action returns to our heroes. The demon tells them that they will be the last and orders them to die faster, calling them a weakness. He decides to attack, and then we realize that our main character has the ability to extract random swords from other worlds. At the very last moment of the demon's attack, the hero takes out the Bulbul sword. This sword is made of soft-touch material and features the ability to block melee attacks once. The heroes realize that they are in a predicament. The demon turns out to be in love with cute things, so his rage only intensifies. He expresses dissatisfaction that the sword he loved so much was attacked. The protagonist realizes that he needs to get the sacred sword and hopes to hold out until the sword's ability is restored again. The demon starts casting a powerful spell, calling our heroes trash. At this time, Dark takes out the Goblin King's pendant, which grants him power depending on the money spent on it. Dark activates the artifact and is enveloped in a bright yellow aura resembling gold coins, and easily repels the demon's attack. The demon realizes that his attack has been repelled, and his interest flares even more. Dark remembers Hearthitter's words that this artifact should only be used as a last resort. Finally, Dark decides to attack the demon and their fight is airborne. The protagonist internally comments on this and realizes that Dark was born with a diamond spoon in his mouth, as this artifact grants him such power. He also realizes that Dark will give him enough time. The demon and Dark fought, and Dark skillfully dodged a series of attacks, realizing his incredible strength. The demon, thinking that he has already won, suddenly receives a strong blow in the face from the boy, throwing him a considerable distance. The demon states to Dark that his attack wasn't powerful enough, not even trying to hide his frustration. However, he still recognizes that Dark is worthy of fighting him on equal terms. Thus, their battle is transferred to the ground. Dark begins a new series of attacks, but the ghost of the artifact suddenly appears, reminding the boy that he only has 10 seconds left. Slightly confused by the time counter, Dark begins to miss the demon's attacks. With every second, his strength decreases, and at the last moment, the demon almost gets the boy with his attack at the last second. However, the highly skilled warrior manages to draw the holy sword from its scabbard and defends his ally after hearing that he was a little too late. The protagonist realizes that among all the holy swords, he received the weakest one. However, he does not lose heart and orders the boy to watch how easily he will cope with this demon. The demon is gaining rage and screaming that he will not allow defeat so easily in this godforsaken place. He summons the magic of the third level of the abyss called Helsing and directs it directly at the hero. However, the hero is not ordinary, he easily dodges this attack, causing amazement in the demon. Then the demon realizes that the hero can only be strong from above, and yells that this is an obvious fact. But it turns out that everything is not so simple. The hero turns to the demon from behind and, apparently, inflicts a devastating blow, announcing that this sword will grant him the power of the angel itself, and therefore the end of the archdemon has come. The archdemon tries to defend itself with magic from this blow, smiling evilly. Thus, the protagonist actually defeats the demon. After that, his sword ceases to glow with a bright flame and cools down. The protagonist stabs him into the ground. Dark turned to the hero with a question whether he wants to leave him here, having received a positive answer. After all, this sword was sealed and no one could use it. If we look at the statistics of this sword, its attack is 90 and its attack against demons is 999. Also, once the enemy is defeated, the sword will be sealed for 99 years. Finally, the quest was completed, and an inscription appeared in front of the heroes about its successful completion. Dark got a new level and a new class. He exclaimed that he now possesses black magic. Suddenly, a ring appeared on it, and the demon itself moved into it. The heroes realized that this demon had become his familiar and he could summon it. Dark noticed that he received new abilities and did not know what to pump first. The protagonist advised him that in today's met. However, before he could finish his sentence, the action shifted to a huge robot that aimed at the tower where the main characters were and started firing. It turned out that this robot was a killer. He realized that if he could not destroy them in the dungeon itself because of the zombies, then he could simply destroy the dungeon itself, which was what he was doing now. From the ruins, he got the same magician and considered him his goal. But then Lime's assistant appeared and declared that these people were guests from the land of Yopi and King Yopi, and he should retreat. But the robot did not agree and began its attack. As soon as he fired his cannons, they immediately exploded, as the girl managed to seal all the exits of the cannons. And for the last time, she told him to get out of here. The main characters were in a protective dome and did not understand who she was. The hero joked that her master must be a pervert to train a slime for such a job, then exclaimed that it couldn't back down in a fight against some slime. He said that in addition to these guns, he has many other ways to kill such a mob. While attacking the girl, he did not realize that she had turned into a liquid form and completely enveloped him, defeating him. She said that cyborgs like him had no chance against her, because they had too many vulnerabilities for her to penetrate. After that, nothing remained of the robot. Finally, after the battle, the slime girl appeared before the heroes in her normal form and announced that the king was waiting for them. The action takes place in a magnificent castle located in Totoras, the stunning sea capital of the Giga Empire. Apparently, there is an important hearing in which CEO Kim Chong-suk reports to the president on the disappointing results of a certain case. The vice president admits that he did not expect this outcome and asks the president's forgiveness. However, at that moment, he is interrupted by his personal secretary, who walks up to him and kicks him hard in the face, stating that he should be fired. But her words are ignored. Another vice president says that if the land of Yopi decides to intervene, things will pick up pace. As a result, someone is ordered to form a legation and they are promptly sent to Yopi land. The delegation arrives at the walls of the city and realizes that the place has remained a hopeless slum. The CEO of the Giga Empire named Pak Bujang can't understand the people of Yopi, because they treat NPCs the same way they treat regular players. The vice president of the Giga Empire, Light, reminds him to watch his words, as they are in enemy territory and not here to fight. After that, a little NPC girl approaches the director and offers to sell her a flower from the land of Yopi for only 1 copper. In response, she receives a pillar of flame in her face and the harsh words "get out." However, before he can apologize, the High General of the Yopi land named Tech saves the girl and starts insulting the ambassadors. He says that they are completely crazy, and emphasizes that he came to greet the guests, but they treat one of the townspeople like that. He considers this unacceptable and, with reproaches against the director, decides to attack him. However, the magicians from the delegation do not allow to approach the director, shackling the man in black magic chains. The general does not like this behavior at all, and he begins to insult the magicians. Light addresses the general, advising him not to attack the delegation of another state, and asks if he is ready to take responsibility for his actions. The general sarcastically replies that it was the magicians who attacked first, not him. However, he receives a completely logical answer that the director attacked only a worthless NPC and received insults in response. Finally, the king appears, orders Tech to end the conflict and greets the guests. Tak, furious, declares that the general almost killed the girl, to which he receives an answer that he still did not kill and he should forget what happened. However, the general is indignant and asks what would have happened if he had not protected the girl. The king, with an insane expression on his face, replies that he would not allow this. He then concludes the greeting and invites the guests inside. The action shifts to Heart Hitter's hut, where our heroes have returned. The lender's assistant decides to make a congratulatory cake. The heroes thank him and sit down at the table to enjoy the cake. The heroes discuss their future plans after completing the side quest. The high-level warrior notes that they should level up, and, given that Dark has a new class and he pumped a little, it's time to go to the village and get some new equipment. The protagonist also notes that the familiar Darka has the skill of equipping items, so he should join them. Dark summons him, addressing him with the words, "Come out, muscular old man." A completely naked demon, painted in bluish tones, appears on the table in front of the heroes. He asks if he was called by his contractor. The demon calls himself Reed Razy, but Dark is allowed to refer to him as just Razy. Razy reveals that his defeat in the dungeon means that he is now at the mercy of Dark, and he put all his strength into this duel, which was indeed worthy. He also mentions that his strength depends on the amount of mana Dark has, which is why he is in such a naked state, and asks the boy to get stronger. Somewhat dissatisfied with the interruption of the meal, Sora throws a blanket over the demon and tells him to get dressed first. To which she receives a positive response. The action shifts to the main conference room of Yopi land. It looks like the discussion was already in progress and for some reason 3 people from the Yopi land side are missing. Continuing the matter, the director says that the line girl completely destroyed one of their soldiers, who was just a scout. In response, the girl claims that the soldier attacked first, and she acted only in self-defense. The headmaster gets cocky, pointing out that they are not here to listen to some NPC's opinion, and turns to the king, asking what they are really here for. The king apologizes for his colleague's act, but warns that if anyone calls her NPC again, he will cut out everyone's tongues. In his mind, the director calls the king a crazy bastard. Light asks the headmaster to be careful with his words and apologizes to the king for his rude behavior. Light claims that the reason the 2 sides forged a truce is to weaken the nightmare. However, with more and more players in this world, Nightmare is getting stronger. If this continues, the world will be mired in nightmares and the game will come to an end. At the moment, thanks to the efforts of the 2 kingdoms, Nightmare is in a dormant state. The Giga Empire was able to rebuild most of its castle and it can now function normally. Light says that the nearby areas of Yopi land are still in the process of being restored, and this is a great chance to attack Yopi land. The general, unable to withstand such impudence, decides to attack Light, but again finds himself a prisoner in magical chains. Light continues his monologue and says that there will be no war if the king agrees to one condition, to stop interfering in Dark's affairs, since this only concerns his family. After that, the delegation leaves, stating that the king will consider everything well. Events again pass to the main characters. They walk through the market and the warrior exclaims after learning that Dark has no money left. Dark explains that he invested his entire fortune in the goblin's pendant while they fought the demon. The warrior can't figure out what will happen to his share, but Dark reassures him that he'll have even more money soon and there's no need to worry. From afar, someone says Dark's real name is Han Ganwoo. This greatly surprises the hero, and he tries with his eyes to find the one who said his name. Dark notices a man in the distance and recognizes him. Turns out it's his brother. He calls him brother, but Light orders him not to call him that, as his father forbade him from playing Mind Adventure. He considers himself a loser child and is destined to live like a loser just like his uncle, Dark's father. The director asks Light if he can be killed, but gets a negative answer. Sora doesn't understand who these people are and asks who they are, but gets no answer. We are watching a high-level warrior whose face reflects deep thought. He seeks to unravel the person in front of him by making guesses in his mind. Light's aura is seen in the warrior's eyes, which leads him to believe that she is one of the most powerful creatures in the game. However, the reality turns out to be different. The protagonist turns to the sad Dark, assuring him that you should not pay attention to them, because he is next to him. To this Dark taunts, saying that he is too talkative for level 15. Continuing their journey through the market, the heroes meet with Sora, who asks the warrior a question: can he finish those guys with one blow? In response, he confidently replies, "Of course, I can handle it." Dark then tells them to wait for him. Everything indicates that the actions are carried over into real life. There are many high-rise buildings around us, and the sound of the phone is carried in the air. A voice comes from the room, telling Sora to wake up and go to breakfast. Our gaze falls on the main office of the Smile Products Company, a majestic tower, outwardly similar to any other skyscraper, but having secret rooms accessible only to the elite. On the lowest floor of this tower, on B13F, is our high-level warrior. Someone knocks on the door, waking up our hero. The young man reports that he is hungry and wonders what will be for breakfast. In return, he is given a bottle of water, cookies, and a can of tuna. He is dissatisfied, because he is offered the same food again. Suddenly, the hero, expressing his stress, violently kicks these canned food in front of him, feeling relieved. Having hit the canned food, the hero notices one canned food with vegetables, which causes special joy, and he starts eating it with pleasure. The action then shifts back to Sora, who is on the bus and finds that all the seats are taken. The heroine remembers that she finally had a group in the game, and notices that all the passengers are busy with their own business in the game, which indicates her popularity. Her stop is announced, and the girl gets off the bus. The heroine hears someone discussing killing a high-level warrior who was at the top. Then it is explained that the virtual reality of the game Mind Adventure allows people to play in their dreams, and due to the unlimited possibilities of this game, it is called the second world, in which the whole country is immersed. The heroine comes to work in the grocery store. She turns to a colleague and reports that she has come. The girl gets to work, laying out the products on the shelves. It is said that the popularity of the game even affects the real world, and high-level players like our protagonist can appear in various advertisements, as they are hugely popular and are idols. In addition, career advancement may depend on progress in the game. The girl informs the customer that the amount is 8,901. One of the buyers tells his friend that he will pay, but his friend will upgrade him in the game for it. Evening comes, and the shift of the girl in the store ends. She goes home, waiting for the bus at the bus stop. Exhausted, she realizes that there were a lot of rude people in the store and sees other tired people, wondering if they play that game and how they look there. The action shifts to Dark. Apparently, he asked his assistant to buy food in the store, and then he will need to throw out the garbage, since she bought food secretly from her father. The girl takes the onigiri out of the bag and asks if he has tried it before, to which she gets a negative answer. She explains how to open them, but the guy is haunted by thoughts of his grandfather and is very worried about him. The girl asks Dark which grandfather he is talking about, from this world or from the game, and gets the answer both. She reveals that he is in a coma in the hospital, and in the game he is considered missing, and everyone is looking for him. The assistant asks the guy how he feels, and he asks if he means his vision. The guy replies that he still sees them and it's incurable. He sees some scary ghosts and says that it is his curse to be forever haunted by his uncle. After that, Dark receives a message from Heart Hitter asking him to enter the game. Dark finds himself in the game world next to his friends. Apparently, they were waiting for him, and then they are glad to see him. Hard Hitter and an assistant call out to Dark and invite everyone to enter the hut. The creditor shows the heroes the items they asked for before exiting the game. The characters are a little surprised. Hard Hitter reveals his plans and explains to the heroes the true reason he brought them all together. Turns out it's an S-rank secret quest provided by a mysterious person. A high-level warrior feels deeply surprised and cannot understand who can issue this type of quest. The creditor claims that there are still unknown details in this quest related to the chairman, which shocks Dark, because the chairman is his grandfather. Rome, the lender's assistant, pours the heroes a cup of Earl Grey and invites them to drink, after which the lender suggests they go collect their debts. The lender wonders why our heroes have been away for so long, realizing that they have a high-level warrior in their company. The events are moving to a dungeon known as the Leaf Dungeon, which our heroes went to level up. The protagonist gets into a fighting stance and informs his demon that they are starting a combo. Then we see a warrior with a huge sword on his back, who declares that he loves the moment when the weaklings relax before he cuts them to pieces. It turns out that this player is Red, that is, the killer of other players. The fight begins, and the Red player talks continuously, not knowing which part of the body to hit our hero. During his attack, this player orders his sword to increase in size, which causes great surprise to our protagonist. However, he manages to repel the attack, and the opponent's sword gets stuck in the wall. The protagonist then orders his demon to attack the Red player as this is the perfect moment. However, the opponent is not completely defenseless and orders his sword to shrink in order to fend off the demon's attack. This surprises the warrior, and he realizes that size control is a feature of this character. The opponent then launches his attack and declares that it is the end of the game. The hero, reflecting his sword, tosses a coin with his right hand. The action is postponed 5 hours ago. The heroes rejoice that they have mastered the 5th level and see that they have accumulated a huge amount of experience, and they have already reached the 30th level. Dark says that their task is to clear 20 levels of the dungeon and catch the Red player who lives here. However, a high-level warrior suggests not to rush and do not forget to improve your characteristics. The hero checks his stats and discovers his abilities, including one of them, Lucky Coin. He asks his friends where the character's abilities can be unlocked, perhaps at this level. Dark has no idea and asks what the character's ability is. The high-level warrior is surprised by this question, as he thought Hard Hitter had explained what it was. He begins to explain. The hero can choose his own race and profession, but the character's ability is chosen randomly immediately after creation. Dark still doesn't understand. The warrior says that the character will have the ability, regardless of race or profession, and gives an example. Mages usually have low dexterity, but if the mage character's ability increases this indicator, then he can become a magician who shoots a bow perfectly. If the character's ability becomes martial arts, then he can be a healing warrior, able to heal and fight at the same time. Dark asks what the warrior's ability is, but gets a rude reply that he will never understand since he's an idiot. The heroes continue on their way, and the high-level warrior deepens in thought about the quest. He wonders if this quest is too simple to be kept secret. He comes to the conclusion that only the Yopi King can give it. Dark never calms down with his obscure character ability and continues to pester Sora by asking her what her ability is. She doesn't know herself. The protagonist gets angry and calls his friends noobas and says that there is one item that allows you to know the character's ability, but it rarely drops out, so it's easier to buy. Next, we watch as some mysterious figures silently watch our heroes who enter a new level of the dungeon. They listen in on their conversation and realize that they need to steal a certain item in order to no longer be afraid of anything. The heroes enter a new level of the dungeon, the boss appears in front of them. The 40th level Dearman Dark exclaims, wondering why it immediately became so difficult. He asks him to step back for a second and use the lucky coin skill. They toss a coin, and if it comes up heads, then the hero gets a buff, and if it comes up tails, then nothing happens. As a result, the hero gets a buff, and he says that he is damn lucky. Filled with confidence, he draws his sword from its scabbard and heads towards the boss. The boss orders him to turn around, but the hero cuts the deer in half with one powerful blow, and then, with a full self-confident expression, asks his friends if they saw it. However, he steps on some kind of trap and finds himself wrapped in nets. Dark starts laughing and Sora yells that he will save him now. But they both fall into this trap. Now the heroes hang in the nets and see those who caught them. The warrior screams menacingly, asking if they know who he is. The kidnappers answer that, of course, they know him. They introduce themselves and demand that the heroes give them their belongings, especially that dagger. The heroes are not happy that they are trapped and are trying to free themselves from the nets. Dark begins to yell at the warrior, who in turn threatens to kill him and realizes that this is a magic trap using a magic stone, but it does not completely restrict their movements. Dark suggests that these people may be the red players that spawn in this dungeon. He asks them if they are a group of red players, but the girl in the group does not understand what he is talking about and asks her leader what it is about. Vorkanes comes forward and starts bluffing that word of his group has already reached the nearest village and pretends to be surprised by this. He tells the heroes that they are indeed the same group of red players, and if they do not resist and listen to their orders, then they will survive. The protagonist replies that they are just a low-level group that means nothing, and asks to get behind and let them move on. But the thief demands that he hand over the dagger and explains that during the official duel he saw the hero and says that this is an unusual item. He claims that if he had such a unique item, he would win every official tournament and every possible battle. In this case, he intends to look into the inventory of the hero. The thief activates the search skill and starts rummaging through the hero's inventory. He sees the sword, but was unable to take it. Instead he takes the antler. The high-level warrior says that the thief's skill is too noob and starts taunting him. The thief replies that he has the most dexterous hands in the world and there is a small dialogue between them. The hero, having heard that the thief is from the land of Yopi, begins to say something that looks like a code. These words turn out to be the code to release the trap from the secret store. The hero frees himself and strikes at the thief. Freeing his friends, a high-level warrior asks the thief if he wants to know how he knows this code. The warrior explains that he was the best player in the whole game a couple of weeks ago and clearly knows this secret code. He also mentions that his mages need to level up to master in order to rob the hero. The protagonist offers the thief an official 3v3 duel, and if the thief wins, he will receive a dagger. Dark becomes indignant and starts yelling at the high-level warrior that if they lose, they will lose their items again. The hero whispers to Dark that these guys are almost as strong as them, but they're just a bunch of noobs who only know how to steal and set traps. Since they have a high-level Sora warrior, they have a great advantage, and these words make Sora embarrassed. A bunch of thieves agree to a duel. The warrior says that he needs to summon an NPC to fight and invites the thief to shake hands. The protagonist secretly rejoices that he has taken them to an official duel and hopes to get all the stats of a thief. He holds out his hand, wishing him a successful duel. However, before they shake hands, the thief calls his henchman, Alpaca Menu, who sneaks up behind the warrior and grabs him so that it is simply impossible to get out of his grip. The thief uses the robbery ability again and this time manages to take the dagger. Sora instantly attacks the thief, but he has a protective barrier placed on him. The protective barrier is shown to have been put by a little girl with a hat on her head named Jayumdan. This hat looks weird and says to kill everyone, insulting everyone, including the girl, who turns out to be modest and doesn't like this behavior. The girl asks the hat to be a little kinder. A fight ensues, and Dark activates his rod abilities, aiming them at the warrior invader. The thug's clothes on his back instantly melt, leaving holes from which a strange concoction flows. The thug, realizing the danger, turns to Dark, trying to strike him, but does not have time. Sora with a powerful kick kicks the thug far into the wall. A girl magician appears on the screen and communicates with her hat, ordering her to destroy all enemies and burn them, as her ally was injured. However, the girl hesitates and asks the hat to be a little kinder, since all the evil words hurt her. At that moment, Mac begins to cast a spell, and a huge fireball erupts from his staff. Apparently, this ball has the ability to weaken the bones, causing difficulty in movement for the protagonist. Sora realizes the situation and decides to help the warrior. The hat on the head of the sorceress still calls for burning and the girl directs a huge fireball directly at the warrior and Sora, but their once savior rises in front of them and opens his arms. Time goes back a few months, and we see a grandiose tournament arena, reminiscent of the Colosseum. They show a gang of thieves and explain that the second round of the quarterfinals is now underway, representing the team of Canes. The host notes that their team is very balanced and is one of the favorites to win. The thief, in turn, says that they developed their skills to a high level and were ready for anything. Now let's introduce you to their opponents. The red team, known for their brutality, are our team's opponents. Spectators can place their bets and the round begins. One of the opponents gets close to Kane's, but seems to miss on purpose, stating that the game is just beginning, because he heard that our team is showing excellent results in the tournament. However, it turned out that the opponents are just newcomers, and it is concluded that the rumors cannot be trusted. At that time, Kane's hopes for a critical hit. Kane scoffs and states that the opponents only won because of the donut. To this he is told that in role-playing games you should use the best equipment, but you are probably too poor to buy it. The audience starts chanting as the host says that the enemy is mocking Kane's right before he dies. The public wants the donor to destroy it and screams about it. In response to this, the donator releases a fiery jet from his hands and kills Kane's, who believes in his mind that if they had advanced a little further, they would have won. The MC yells that Kane's team lost in front of the great item power and the winner of the quarterfinals was the Mad Donator's team. Then there are echoes that if we had rare items, we would win. Events return to the current duel of heroes. Everyone freezes as they see Sora about to sacrifice herself, but the warrior notices that she has bones, which means that she used the second circle of black magic called Wall of Bones. Sora addresses Dark, who tells the warrior that it was dangerous and calls him an idiot, and also explains that high-level magic requires a large amount of mana, which she no longer has left. We understand that it was Dark who protected Sora with a Wall of Bones. Sora thanks Dark by waving her arms, but notices that her hand is flaring and she is slightly puzzled. The main character understands that this girl was useful and thanks her. The hero realizes that his unique item has been stolen, and besides, the thief no longer has any reason to continue the official battle, but the warrior needs to make him do it, no matter what. At this time, the thief is perplexed and asks the magician if she really wanted to kill them, to which she receives the answer that she cannot control her power. A high-level warrior realizes that he is leveling up too slowly. At this rate, he won't be able to complete the contract on time and find again the woman who took his stuff and left him with the dragon zombie to fend for himself. The thief makes fun of him, asking how he dares to attack him, to which he receives a sharp answer that the sword will be very useful to him and that he is now in a good mood. Does he offer to let the thief live, or does he wish to die at the hands of the red player? The protagonist declares that he can no longer listen to these children's conversations, and in order to lie, you need a brain, after which he calls the thief a stupid imbecile. The thief likes it and starts a verbal altercation. He asks if he looks like an idiot in the eyes of a warrior just because he said he would let him live. To this, the warrior replies that the thief said that if he gets this dagger, he can win anywhere and says that red players cannot participate in tournaments, insulting him. These words cause the thief's anger. The hero continues his monologue, saying that it is better not to lie anymore and that such a trick will not work on a great high-level warrior. He goes on to say that it's more like they just got thrown out in the tournament and that they were just too lazy to level up and decided to just steal items from people hoping for good luck. A high-level warrior understands that the time has come to push him even harder. He continues to insult the thief, saying that people like him are eternal losers because they cannot do anything on their own. Finally, these words infuriate the thief, and with extraordinary speed, he instantly stops the stolen dagger at the warrior's throat. He is indignant, explaining that if he wanted to kill him, he would have done it immediately, as soon as he stole the weapon. The hero realizes that he is dealing with an experienced thief who has a lightning-fast reaction. After that, the girl magician offers the thief to go back already, since he has already managed to steal a rare item. The hat on the girl's head begins to mockingly insult the thief, inciting him even more, but the thief still restrains himself and decides to listen to the magician's advice. The highly experienced warrior realizes that his provocations continue to annoy the thief and says that he has never met a player who moves slower than him. He continues to ridicule, calling the stolen dagger absolute rubbish and claiming that the thief who is so mean is because he is afraid to lose to the warrior, calling him a loser in the end. The thief rushes at the warrior with a dagger, urging him to shut up, but his hand is stopped in time by a fellow thug. The thief then explains that they are leaving. The protagonist begins to bargain, presenting incredible artifacts that are tied to his character, such as a seal of a salamander and tissue paper of an angel. He says that these unique items would be great acquisitions for his mage and brute. However, he cannot sell these items as they are character-bound, but he is willing to stake them during a duel. The thief considers the possibility of volunteering for a duel, as it may give him the opportunity to obtain items for his teammates. He informs the warrior that he is going to use these items against him during the duel, so he will not succumb to such a provocation. The protagonist then removes all of his rare items, stating that he does not rely on items like a thief, and asks him if he is afraid, continuing to call him a coward. In response, the thief calls the warrior a bastard, asks the thug to let him go and shakes hands with his opponent, which is the beginning of the duel. So, events unfold, and we are shown the previous episodes, where the main characters shake hands. After that, an NPC appears to fight. The protagonist is surprised to see that instead of his sister, Daikuin is the battle NPC Shove. The warrior asks Shiva why he replaced his sister, and gets the answer that the sister is busy and doing a lot of tasks, since there is very little time left until the next tournament, and the players began to fight much more often. This also tires the protagonist, but he is left with no choice but to join. He asks the guys what bets they made and what the winner gets. The hero invites them to name themselves and express what they want to get if they defeat their opponent. Kane says that if he wins, he will receive 2 items, a salamander's seal and an angel's tissue paper. A high-level warrior says that if he wins, he will receive all the characteristics of a noob. The NPC of the battle confirms the bets and announces that there are still a couple of conditions to be met, but he is unwilling to fulfill them. We are then shown the duelists and the amount of gold wagered on them. The NPC of the battle announces that he is tired and someone must lose quickly, after which the duel begins. The battle NPC notices that the thief has a paralyzing sword and thinks that the legendary weapon against the normal one gives the thief a significant advantage. Then they show what kind of sword the main character has, a lucky long sword, with an attack power of 24 and +3 to luck. The hero, whispering to himself, realizes that the thief does not know the conditions for activating his hidden ability, and decides to attack, mocking that even such a magnificent item is useless without knowing its use. The thief quickly parries the warrior's attack using his high speed, but the warrior familiar with the thief's abilities deflects the next attack. During the fight, the thief informs the warrior that he actually thinks the thief will try to steal the dagger, which the warrior knows nothing about, and starts talking about its abilities. This ability is called protective penetration, its main quality is enchantment, and activation conditions, hit. The thief explains that he is able to steal not only items, but also information. When you steal things, you unwittingly start stealing information. The thief majestically announces that this item is what he has been looking for all along, and no one can use it better than himself. It represents the unique ability of thieves, light steps. The thief begins to whirl around the protagonist, at the same time striking him with a dagger. The hero realizes that he can block one hit, but on the third hit he flies away. A high-level warrior realizes that the thief made 3 hits in one attack and realizes that the thief's ability is chain strikes. The thief calls this a triple attack and claims that if the first blow hits the target, then the next blows will hit with 100% probability. Inside, the thief knows that this is only the beginning, while the warrior seems scared for some reason. The warrior asks himself why he started this duel at all, if his level and characteristics are much lower. But our hero is not so defenseless. He says that if he has few stats, he can borrow them from others. He turns to Sora and asks her to lend him her power, promising to return it soon. She blushes and gives him her power. The thief claims that it is useless and starts spinning, but the hero declares that he will return her power with the interest that he will receive right now, and begins his attack. Due to the thief's enormous speed, the warrior misses, and the thief notices that his getting into it is not so easy, like hitting a bunch of stones. The thief then attacks the warrior from above, only to realize that his blow is hitting what appears to be a concrete cylinder that the warrior had lifted up for protection. The warrior then throws the top hat at the thief, who manages to dodge. The thief realizes that something is wrong with this warrior and asks what bug he is using. In response, he gets, bug? Losers who lack abilities always complain about bugs. Just give them a reason. Sora realizes that she has already shown him these abilities at the first level, and he accurately copies them, lovingly remarking that she expected such behavior from a high-level warrior. While Dark thinks she's gone crazy, the thief begins to use his secret technique, which he did not want to show. He activates his ability similar to Naruto's. He summons clones of himself that are as real as himself, stating that he can now land 9 hits at once. Some people comment that they've never seen anything like it. The hero realizes that the thief wants to use the clones to deliver the 100th blow faster. The thief with an evil smile says that the hero will not be able to defend himself against this. The thief proceeds to beat the hero, numbering his blows, 72, 73, 74, 77, and so on. However, thanks to the power of Sora, the hero skillfully dodges every blow. The thief, getting more and more insane, screams that the warrior cannot handle him, and how can he be so fast? He conjures the hero to die. While the protagonist becomes irritated by the thief's chatter, he remains stoic. The high-level warrior responds to the thief, urging him to stop annoying. He swings his sword and throws back several clones. The warrior realizes that the thief has missed one important detail. The warrior offers the thief to simply surrender, realizing that even if he gets the dagger, he will still lose. But the thief mockingly replies that the hero just dreamed about it. Finally, the 100 strike closes in, and Keynes manages to get behind the thief, stabbing him with a dagger. Sora is stunned by what she sees and summons a high-level warrior. The girl magician screams that Keynes has won. Observers are surprised that high-level lives remain in place, and do not understand why. The thief begins to doubt whether the critical hit has passed, and what is happening. The protagonist with a grin tells the thief that he should have watched where he hits. At the point of impact is a skeleton summoned by a high-level warrior, which means that all 100 blows and the previous ones missed. The warrior then launches his attack and cuts one of the clones in half, causing Keynes to lose a third of his life. The battle NPC notices this and says he's already tired. Keynes does not understand what is happening. Dark thinks and realizes that it seemed to him that someone was sucking something out of him. He believes that the warrior did this when he took the potion from him. Dark sees that the warrior has one of his abilities, summoning a skeleton. The warrior says that he can borrow not only stats, but also abilities. With pride, the warrior announces that if you do something, then do it to the fullest, insulting the thief. He also says that the dagger is completely useless unless the thief hits with the 100th hit. He points out that the thief only has one clone left and will not be able to use this attack again. The thief yells at him to shut up and they continue their attack at breakneck speed. The warrior tells the thief that he can talk as much as he wants, but he will not be able to follow him, since he only needs to aim at his weak points. The thief then attacks from behind and plunges the dagger into the warrior's hand, but since the dagger's attack is 1, this damage means nothing. He can pierce a warrior with this dagger 1,000 times, and it will not change anything. The hero says that this unit of damage is negligible compared to simply crushing the thief's head. He then drops the thief to the floor and disposes of another clone. The thief only has a third of his health left. The hero realizes that he got rid of all the clones and only Keynes remained. He invites the thief to surrender. Keynes' pride does not allow him to give up so easily, and he shouts that this is cheating, and only by cheating the hero was able to borrow stats and abilities. The warrior doesn't understand why he thinks this is cheating. He explains that there are a lot of high-level characters like him in the game, and this game itself is not fair, as it chooses the ability for the character immediately after creation. He also asks the thief if he knows that all his stats will be reset if he dies. The thief starts complaining to the NPCs of the battle, saying that this duel is invalid. He tells the NPCs that the game itself is not fair, but at least he intends to be fair. Shove asks him if he wants to fight more. The guy says that the duel is not valid and calls Shiva the god of bugs and not the god of battles. Afterwards, Shove decides that Kane no longer intends to fight. Due to being disrespectful to God and refusing to fight for no reason, the thief is punished with access restriction, which causes complete bewilderment for the thief, who insults the game and disappears forever. Then the events are transferred to King Yopi and his henchmen, who are flying on dragons. The henchman asks the king why he gave them the secret quest, given that they are low levels and one of them is in debt. The king replies that he entrusted them with the quest in his own name, but only gave them his quest. He adds that the group will soon demonstrate their abilities, and they can only wait and watch. The assistant remarks to the king that he should stop arguing with her. She also expresses her reluctance to fly the rain dragon and offers to have a virtual meeting. The king explains that all virtual meetings go through the Giga Empire and that there has been an increase in the number of people working in this area lately. The assistant insists on taking her words seriously, but the king refuses to say that he is annoyed. The heroes enter the meeting room and immediately turn to the king, saying that he was late. Everyone in the hall introduces themselves: Lord Aji Clayet, Lord Ran Kakan, Lord Adeju Cherakira, Lord Tedo Munchik, Lord of Irugo Padon, Lord Bainark Chamakit, Earth Lord Woof Woof Paphoderanian, Cobalt Lord Sad Smile. The king apologizes and offers to get down to business. The Lord of Woof Woof the Earth expresses his displeasure at having to walk aimlessly on his instructions, but the king claims that this is a very serious problem. The king tells everyone that he met the chairman of the Giga Empire yesterday and even talked to him. This surprises everyone present. The king admits that he himself was surprised. The chairman came to him and made several demands, and then left. The king tried to follow him, but nothing came of it. The king is asked about the requirements, but he replies that he cannot tell anyone. However, he believes that this is not particularly important, since there are more important things. He says that the chairman will personally take part in the competition in the arena. One of the meeting participants does not understand why he needs this. In response, the king replies that he himself does not really know. Perhaps the chairman thought this was interesting, because he is a strange person. In addition, everyone gathered today to decide what to do in the future. Someone also says that if they catch the chairman, they will have an advantage in negotiations with him. Events return to our main characters. The defeated thief lies on the floor. 5 chests are flying in the air next to him, but since the level of the protagonist is not so high, he can only take 2 of them. The warrior decides to choose 2 unusual chests. One looks like a circle and the other looks like a pirate chest with a very high lid. A round chest reveals strength, while a pirate chest reveals precision. Then the powers of precision are transferred to the protagonist. The protagonist explains that he will return the abilities and stats he borrowed, but will return them with interest. He then transfers these abilities to his friends and thanks them for letting him use their stats. Sora feels stronger and realizes that this is the interest, and Dark decides to remain silent. The hero understands that he received all the stats of a thief, but spent almost everything to repay the debt with interest. Suddenly, the hero notices the thief's helpers and asks if they want to have a duel. After that, they run away. The protagonist invites Sora and Dark to continue the quest, to which they agree. However, the hero in his thoughts regrets a little that he lost the dagger. After that, they continue to explore new levels of the dungeon and defeat any opponents with ease. Finally, they reach level 12. The hero tells his friends that it's time to finish everything as soon as possible and they go inside, where they see the very red player with whom they fought at the beginning. This red player is sitting on a huge monster, which, apparently, he defeated. Dark does not understand who this man is, and calls out his name Leon. He asks who he is and yells at him to stop stealing experience from them and get out of here. In response, the red player with a chuckle impales Dark with something, causing the protagonist to go into shock. Events are moved back a little to the moment when the monster on which the red player was sitting is still alive. The red player defeats this monster with light blows to the back and sits on it for a bite to eat. All this is told by a mysterious man hiding in the mountains of corpses and writing it all down in his diary. She says that she only logged into the game twice, and already found herself in the middle of a mountain of corpses that arose thanks to this person. She believes that this killer has no job in the real world, since he has not left the game for several days. The eyes of the red player are transferred to the mountains of corpses, and the girl realizes that she has been noticed. However, she notices that the man only noticed the bats. The girl turns to her diary and informs him that this story has every chance of becoming her best. She can't just die. The girl notices that the man has not left the game for several days, and his eyes are getting redder. She again turns to the diary and says that she remembered who this killer was. She's seen him at the village's most wanted booth, and he's called the Player Eater. He kills players in dungeons and eats them to get some of their stats. A man among a mountain of corpses chooses one player, commenting that he looks pretty appetizing. The girl notices that among the corpses there is less and less place where she can hide, and understands that for her this could be the end of the game. However, our main characters suddenly enter the dungeon hall. We are seeing a repetition of that episode when Darka is something, and at this time the girl is writing in her diary about the appearance of a new group. It turns out that the red player pierced Dark's hand with his sword that can be changed in length. He states that this will be his first loot in a while, so he's going to play with our heroes first, and then order his sword back. The protagonist summons a demon and says it's time to start the combo. The red player says that he loves the moment when the weaklings relax before he cuts them to pieces. The enemy starts an attack, but the hero manages to parry it. However, the same episodes that were at the beginning are repeated. The hero flips a coin and hopes for heads, but it comes up tails. The hero then decides to attack the red player, but the red player tries to bite the hero in order to chew through his armor. However, he doesn't get anything. The red player asks the hero what kind of strong armor he has. The hero responds by asking if he didn't break all his teeth by biting him. He explains that his armor is made from dragon scales, and it's not easy for the red player to gnaw through it with his teeth. In the head of the protagonist, the thought arises that if this player attacked him with a sword, and not teeth, then he would inflict fatal damage on him. The red player remembers who is in front of him and decides to ask if he is a high-level warrior or not. The red player informs the hero that he heard that the warrior recently became weak, although he does not know the reason, but, nevertheless, he is going to kill him and add to his collection, since he collects the heads of famous players. He displays his collection, mentioning the head of some guild and the elder of some village. The protagonist is left completely surprised and believes that this person has just gone crazy. We are presented with the quest itself, where it becomes clear that our heroes need to go through 20 levels of the tower, but they were only able to clear 11. In addition, they have to catch the red player alive. The warrior is aware that the task of capturing him alive will be extremely difficult. The hero shouts out that this red player is a real loser in real life, which is why he acts as a killer in the game. He wonders if the parents of the red player know about his addiction to the game. In response, the red player kicks, saying that he is no longer a child. The enemy continues to claim that this game is much better than the whole we call real life. He also threatens that after killing a warrior, nothing will change, except for the status of the red player, which will be updated. When he is ready to continue his words, Sora takes the side of the warrior. The red player, while fighting Sora, says that it is impossible to feel such power in real life. The enemy continuously strikes the main characters with his sword, easily overcoming their defenses. The high-level warrior decides to pair up with his demon, but the red player easily deflects their attacks, dismissively calling them weaklings. Red asks who he will eat first, whereupon Dark suddenly jumps on his back, surprising Red. He mistakenly believes Dark is asking him to eat himself first, wondering how he tastes. But the guy is not so simple. He activates the ability of decomposition and directs it directly into the opponent's face, causing great pain and burns. The red player starts screaming in pain, stating that he will kill the guy, and repeats this several times. He complains of sharp pain and says that he set the level of emotional transmission too high. Soon, the red player's face becomes hideous and corrupted. He declares that he will inflict great pain on our heroes and activates an ability called Fury. He begins to inflict many attacks, turning into some kind of monstrous creature on 4 legs. The protagonist is surprised and unsure if this person is a real player or not. He understands that the appearance of the enemy is similar to the nightmare. The enemy attacks again and easily defeats the heroes, dropping them into a pile. The protagonist says they can't handle it at their current levels. He understands that at this rate it will be game over for them. Suddenly, the enemy jumps on Dark in order to kill him. However, before he can touch him, the enemy simply disappears from the game, screaming that he will catch up with our heroes. It turns out that he was simply disconnected from the game. Dark turns to the warrior, asking if he was also a player, but gets no response. The same girl who previously wrote something in her diary comes out from behind a mountain of corpses. She thanks our heroes for helping her survive. Dark asks who she is, but gets the answer that her group was carried out feet first, leaving her to pretend to be dead among the corpses. The girl continues the conversation, noting that there is no time, as the red player left due to a time limit in the game. She introduces herself as Pubiu, the author of the Yopi Land Manhwa. The protagonist realizes that the red player has indeed exceeded the time limit and will have to wait 1 hour in the real world before reconnecting to the game. After 7 hours of playing time, he will be able to return to the game. Pubu points to the lock and tells that the red player did not know how to open this door, so he killed every player who came with the key. Then she explains the peculiarity of this door. During the hunt on the lower levels, deer antlers fall out, and they must be brought to the castle. Wait until it closes, after which the castle opens its doors. The girl says that the red player will be back in 7 hours, so they need to leave the dungeon within that time. She states that she knows the guide for the entire dungeon and they need to hurry. 6 hours of game time passes, and the heroes are sitting on the stairs, located at the 19th level. The girl notes that cleaning the levels is tiring, but they manage to pass the 18th level and suggests developing a strategy. A high-level warrior asks her who she is. The girl, a little embarrassed, realizes that she has not told anything about herself and decides where to start her story. She activates her ability called Telling a Story and begins her story. She reveals that she came to the dungeon with the guildmaster to do some field research. From the very first level, she began to learn a lot of new information about the dungeon, but the guild leader apparently already went through its history, so she created a complete guide. However, it was a complete surprise for their group to meet a red player at level 12. Happily hiding among the corpses, she successfully entered and exited the game, pretending to be dead, until our heroes appeared. Now the girl says they need to hurry as they have less than an hour left before the red player comes back into the game and starts chasing them. To leave the dungeon, they need to complete the last level. The hero asks about the conditions for levels 19 and 20. The girl opens her diary and sees that part of the page has disappeared due to spilled blood. The protagonist says that they can only go ahead and find out everything for themselves, and the girl asks in surprise if they will go to these levels without any information. She also points out that due to the high level of difficulty, it can take a long time without a guide. One of the heroes interrupts her, telling her to stop whining, and it turns out that this is Dark. He says that if the red player can catch up with them, then they will just fight him. The girl agrees with him, but before she can say anything about the red player, she is interrupted by a high-level warrior who tells them to go and adds that a warrior like him cannot lose to such a noob. He opens the door and tells them to just see what happens. Opening the doors, the hero shouts, "Forward, the 19th level." The girl is very surprised that he really goes without a plan, but the warrior says that they can come up with a plan along the way. The 19th level of the dungeon is called Leaf Dungeon. The hero sees pollen in front of him and immediately covers his nose with his hands. The warrior understands that these are spores from those fly agarics. A high-level warrior sees the fallen spirit leaf in front of him, who tells our heroes to leave now. But they are not going to leave and decide to attack the guard. The hero sees disputes in front of him and understands that the guard controls them. Sora yells that the spores are taking human form. This turns out to be a unique ability of the Guardian of the Dark Woods, known as the materialization of strong opponents. Dark peers at one of the golems and notices that it bears a strong resemblance to his grandfather. Immediately after that, the golems begin their attack. The bespectacled girl remembers that she, too, is a guardian and explains that these golems are made in the image of those the guardian considers strong. However, it seems that their stats are the same as regular golems. Despite this, these golems still wield considerable power. Dark summons 3 skeletons by activating his ability. A high-level warrior understands that it is not so difficult for him to cope with the blows of golems, because he has already gained several levels, and the level of golems is probably about 40. The hero wonders if he should open the ability window. He doubts whether the ban on abilities has been lifted. He is looking for an ability that is perfect for dealing with such opponents, and finds it, Hellfire. Calling his skeletons, Dark orders them to attack the spirit of the forest, but he orders the golem to protect him, and the golem easily copes with the skeletons. This causes some anger in Dark. The guardian then chuckles viciously and says that this golem swordsman is terribly strong. After that, the battle shifts to Sora, who activates her octagonal slash ability and slices through the golem with ease. The girl understands that no matter how many times she kills them, they just regenerate. A high-level warrior orders everyone to stand back and flips a lucky coin, which increases his magic damage. As a result, the hero uses Hellfire's ability, which surprises the others, because they have been waiting for magic for a long time. After summoning a huge wall of flame and directing it at the golems, Dark completely devours them, and only their hearts remain of them. He orders Sora to deal with these hearts, and she easily handles them, after which the golems no longer respawn. The guard puts his hands up and says he's giving up because he has no more mana left and doesn't want to be cut in half again. The guardian says that if they get to level 20, they won't be able to defeat the master. The girl with the glasses says they don't have much time left because the red player will be back soon. But the warrior says that he decided to fight the assassin, even though he has only a 50-50 chance of winning. However, if they use the guardian's power, then the chances of winning will increase significantly. The hero turns to the guardian and asks if he can restore the golems if he transfers the mana to him. After that, he transfers mana to the guard, promising not to attack him, but in return he will summon golems for him. The main characters realize the need to prepare for the arrival of the red player. We are then shown someone walking up the stairs. The girl with glasses looks at her watch and says that he has come. The red player opens the door with his sword. The man angrily states that the higher the level of emotional transmission, the stronger the feelings when hitting or harming. The player believed that he almost died from anger alone as his face melted. He decides that our hero should experience all his pain and asks who he should cut to pieces first. Events are moved back to the beginning of the first kills of the red player. The guy asks some man why he walks in such clothes, to which he receives a cheeky answer that it does not matter to him. He decides to kill this man, changes the length of his sword and pierces him, killing him. The guy says that he killed more and more players, and it became even more fun, especially when he got the ability to exterminate the strong, tired of killing the weak players. He starts eating the corpses of the players, remarking that they have never looked so delicious. While eating another corpse, the guy notices that this game is not only about quests and development, but also about fun. He understands that, unlike boring office work, real life is much more fun here. Putting on the armor that he removed from the murdered man, the guy says that it is more fun here than in real life, and the pleasure in this world is just as real. He yells that it's too much fun and gains the Berserker class. Events return to the battle in the dungeon. The protagonist realizes that the red player has finally arrived. He wastes no time and uses the rage ability, starting to attack the main characters, inflicting millions of hits on them. The hero realizes that this player is a real berserk and they must act according to the plan. The red player attacks Dark, but Sora manages to parry his blow while protecting the boy. 40 notices that her primitive attacks are constantly failing and takes a series of wounds, leaving her with few lives left. However, she does not lose hope, as she trusts a high-level warrior. The red player attacks the girl again, but Dark manages to put up a wall of bones, protecting her. The girl thanks the boy and tells the warrior that now it's time to change. Remembering the plan, she decides to land a few hits on the enemy, and then switch with the warrior and use potions to restore health. The quarrel realizes that if they continue to change, they have a chance to win. At this time, the red player breaks one of the bones from the wall, and Sora asks Dark to give her potions. Suddenly, her face changes and it turns out that the red player impaled her with a bone, using her as a weapon. Quarrel asks for forgiveness from a high-level warrior as she is distracted and gets stabbed with a sword, flying to the side bleeding. The protagonist, overcome with rage, yells "No! Sora!" Realizing that his plans have collapsed, and he will have to go to Plan B right now. Dark wants to ask what happened, but the high-level warrior interrupts him, saying he's annoying, and they move on to Plan B as agreed. The red player expressed his displeasure, noting that the girl died too quickly, and stated that he planned to have breakfast with her after he dealt with the others. The high-level warrior decides to go to Plan B and orders Leaf's spirit to summon the golems, which immediately attack. The protagonist points out that it will not be so easy for the red player, since attacking one person with the forces of the group is always an effective tactic. The enemy starts attacking the golems, seemingly dealing with them with ease, but suddenly one of the golems activates a trap that limits the player's options. While the trap is in effect, a highly skilled warrior shows the guard the trap and orders him to set it inside the golem. The red player does not understand what is happening, and the hero explains to him that this is a special trap created just for him, and adds that even Sora, who has superhuman strength, would not be able to free himself from it. After that, our heroes rush to stab the player's face in revenge for Sora. When the hit comes, the red player is rendered paralyzed and rendered unconscious. The protagonist announces that they will complete the quest by taking it to the village. However, in order to do so peacefully, they would probably have to cut the tendons in this guy's legs. The red player suddenly starts laughing as he rises from his knees. He states that our high-level warrior has become a completely different person since his stats dropped, but the hero threatens him with jail time, preparing to stab him with a sword. Amazingly, the red player tells the hero not to make him laugh, freeing himself from the traps and standing up to his full height. The red player claims that for someone like him who has overcome control, such weak control means nothing. He then stabs the warrior's arm, causing him great pain. Sora's house. In the middle of the night, she wakes up and realizes that she died in the game. She believes that without her, the whole plan will fail, and that the high-level warrior Nim will die because of her. The girl understands that she can return to the game in exactly an hour. An hour goes by and she prays for our hero to survive and then connects to the game. Inside the game, She wakes up on a bed in the lender's hut, surrounded by his assistant and Dark. With a sad voice, the assistant says that if they are all here, then they were killed and they returned to the village. However, the assistant claims that the quest has been accurately completed, much to Sora's great surprise. She realizes that this is true, because she has raised several levels. Remembering the high-level warrior, she asks what happened to him. Dark sternly tells her not to mention the bastard's name. But Sora does not understand what he is talking about. Suddenly, Hard-Hitter enters the room and sees that Sora has returned and reports that the high-level warrior has already left. The girl does not understand the meaning of this and turns to Dark, but he is silent.